week we had the honor to interview Philippe Kahn, the CEO of Fullpower, a world-leading sleep technology company. So Philippe, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having us.
Great. So Philippe, what I wanted to talk to you today is maybe talk about your background and how you started your company, and then talk about your product, the trend that you see in the smart sleeping tech market, and then your plans for the next 2 years. How does it sound?
That sounds great.
Great. So for the audience who's listening, tell us about, first of all, your background. You're pretty well known in Silicon Valley, and also how you got the idea of launching Fullpower.
So I'm a technologist. I'm a mathematician by trade and training. And I'm also a sailor and an offshore sailor. I sail across oceans just with one people, two people, and I've got a couple of records here in the Pacific. And when you sail like that, you get sleep deprived,
I see.
Because you never sleep more than 20 minutes. And then if you have to optimize your performance while you sail, sailing can be very intense as the wind blows hard, and, hell breaks loose, and you're sleep deprived, etc. Then what happens is that, bad things happen because you start making mistakes and all that.
Yeah.
So I started being passionate about 25 years ago from sailing, really, in a great way. I try to understand, how I could manage my sleep deprivation and all that. That led me to understand sleep. And then I realized that, we live in a sleep deprived world. That's true. But also every athlete that has a bunch of low hanging fruit where you can actually increase your performance by increasing the efficiency of your sleep, not necessarily the length of your sleep, but the quality and the efficiency. So that was the genesis for Fullpower, and that's what we've been doing for a little over a decade.
And that's great. That's super interesting and helpful. So how does your product help address sleep issues? For example, we work with a lot of teams, anywhere from the Premier League, the NBA, the NHL, in South America. I was talking to the athletic trainer of a soccer team in Brazil who said, my issue is that after the games in Brazil, the players cannot sleep at night. You just can't sleep. So it's a big problem, right? But how does your product help sleep issues today?
So the first thing is we are a science-based company. Everything we do is based on the data and what the data tells us. And what we apply is the principles of cognitive behavioral science. And cognitive behavioral science is the science of making small changes that over time make a big difference, rather than big changes that are non-sustainable. That's basically what happened. And so I'll use your example of after the game, people can't sleep. Well, that's perfectly natural. It's exactly the same thing when sailing. We get into some kind of, let me silence my that. After the game, while we're sailing, after a storm and etc., we're exhausted, but you can't sleep. It's the adrenaline.
Yeah.
So that's kind of normal. And so now if you start fighting that, that may not be the best strategy. The best strategy may be to use nature and to use the data to actually say, hey, you know what? It doesn't make sense to try to force yourself to sleep if your body says, nah, I don't want to sleep right now. I got too much adrenaline, for example. And so our approach is really science-based. We look at a system that's completely non-invasive, non-intrusive, that allows us to create an objective, scientific, accurate baseline of sleep. Mm-hmm. And so we did, put two sensors under a mattress or something like that, because, wearables don't give you an accurate picture. It's just very approximate. And then we look over time at what are the patterns? What are, the system looks at it and says, how do I compare to myself over time? What are the differences? And also, how am I with people with similar biometrics? Like, for example, if I had a team, a sports team, you can compare your whole team, who sleeps out, what are the differences, and are there the fundamental difference? As opposed to say, there's one way to do sleep and everybody should fit in that. That is not true. That is the same thing as there are people who are going to be great on a 100-meter dash and others who are going to be great on a 5,000-meter run. And they're not.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you trying to understand the environment? Because I was talking to a sleep expert not too long ago, and she was working on an athlete, and he was working 8 hours a night, so plenty of sleep, and he was waking up tired. And what they found was that he was snoring so loud that it was disturbing his sleep, and he didn't have enough deep sleep because of that. So, and what she said was, you have to understand the context, thing that you can't catch necessarily. Does it make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, we call those respiratory events. And so respiratory events could be snoring. That's pretty mild, but it could be mild snoring, but it could be pre-apnea, apnea, etc. And those have all to do with how you breathe. And how you breathe had to do how you oxygen your body. One of the first things that happen is very difficult to have deep sleep if you don't have at least, 97, 98% oxygen saturation. In fact, people who climb mountains at high altitude where, they have to live at 93, 94%, realize they get essentially no deep sleep. It's a very unhealthy activity, a very exciting one. And so, absolutely, we look at respiratory events as signposts of quality. And in fact, if you look at what we do, we recently published something is that what could be the ideal ratio of deep sleep with REM sleep, and is there such an ideal ratio? Is that, what does that mean for us? Because, for example, if someone is within norms and doesn't have that ratio, then you're absolutely right. We should look at things. Snore is one of the most immediate factors. And for professional athlete, that would be important because the general public, the biggest disruptor of sleep is actually not probably snore, it's glucose intolerance and basically pre-diabetes and diabetes, which is almost in 50% of people now. The average population.
Really?
Don't suffer from that. And as you
say 50%? 50%?
Yeah. So we find that, you could almost, by looking at sleep patterns, diagnose pre-diabetes, etc. But with an athlete, of course, anything that has to do with respiratory events, that's how we call it, which is light snore, heavy snore, apnea. There's a whole bunch of conditions like that. And so now the question is, if when you see it in a sleep analysis, what do you do about it? And so there is little science and there's a lot of speculation about it, and there are opinions. And so our company is a science-based company, and so we try not to make decisions on opinion, but rather on what does the data show. So the data shows, we've been working with a bunch of sleep doctors who are specialists in that, is that in many ways, the two extremes of the most efficient way are potentially to tell people sleep on your stomach, which is because it's very difficult to snore when you sleep on your stomach, and instantly deep sleep gets better. Or there is the intervention with opening up cavities and all that. And that's completely invasive and completely extreme. The normal thing would be to first say, hey, you know what? Try to sleep on your stomach. And then there's the old grandma tricks, which is, how do you force yourself to sleep on your stomach? Because, we naturally, if we sleep, move. And some of the old grandma's tricks is, take 2 tennis balls, sew them to the back of your shirt, sleep like that, and every time you feel that, you'll turn around. That kind of stuff.
You can also sleep sideways, right? I do sleep sideways, and that I'm more comfortable. Also have some back problem, but I do sleep sideways. That might be a kind of a midway right there, right?
Yes, and it's very rare that someone who really sleeps sideways has a lot of snore. But if you now turn it to sleeping on your tummy more, it's almost impossible to snore that way. And so a lot of people are told you have to sleep flat on a flat mattress. That's healthy. That's not healthy. In fact, from an evolutionary standpoint, I would argue that our ancestors in paleo times or something like that would sleep much more inclined. Some of them would, think about it. You're sleeping in a cave. The cave bear is roaring over there. The saber-toothed tiger is all excited. And you're going to sleep flat on your thing? No, you're going to sleep in a way that you can jump off and get your whatever weapon is to defend yourself or defend your family or your clan or your tribe or whatever it is. And And so the whole concept of flat mattress is, in our opinion, a modern thing, and so what we find also is that from a sleep perspective, the concept of the uninterrupted 8-hour night of sleep is a myth. If you look at any research that has been done over time on how our ancestors used to sleep, a lot of people used to have 2 shifts in sleep, one called first sleep and a second, and the second sleep. I have found that works for me much better. And actually, I'll do something that's really weird, which is that I will work out in between both. And I'll lift weights in between both. And people say, oh, you can't sleep afterward. No, I get much more deep sleep afterward.
Why is that? Because you get more tired, it releases certain substance that make you fall asleep, or what does it do?
And I get recovery in the second sleep. And then I'm not even sore, as opposed to get up and immediately work out and then get sore for the rest of the day. It's actually, those are biohacks, but I'm not saying they work for everybody, but it's unconventional. And then some people would do just fine by sleeping in one chunk, and honestly, people would sleep in multiple chunks. I learned that by offshore sailing.
I see. So you go to bed maybe at like 10 o'clock, and then for like 4 hours, and then you stop, you work out, and then you go back to bed. Is
exactly
that
right?
Huh.
And usually my gap is about between 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard when you travel, when you're on the plane, right, and you fight jet lagging, I guess people say you can go to the gym when you get to your destination. And is that kind of what you're talking about then?
The best way to fight jet lag I found is when I get my destination to have a crazy workout and sweat a lot and lift and all that, and suddenly you're acclimated. And there's something to do with that.
Okay.
Those are practical little things, but we can measure the effects of those. I can see in my sleep analysis.
Yeah.
It's not only I feel better, but because what you feel is what you feel, and then there's the objective, what the numbers show, right? And so you look at both, and sometimes it's completely different. You feel lousy, and the number says you slept quite a bit, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And other times you feel like you slept great, and you look at the numbers and say, no, I didn't sleep that much. And so it has to do with recovery and a whole bunch of cycles that, frankly, the medical community doesn't understand very well. What's really important is to start understanding what our patterns, etc. One of the worst things is, I think, when you're all excited and have adrenaline and all that, to try to force yourself to sleep. And there are a lot of reasons why you may not sleep. You win a game or whatever, and you start drinking wine and drinking with buddies, which is, everybody does. And that's not favorable to deep sleep, for sure. I mean, in fact, you could test it on yourself. You can use our system and measure, your sleep. And the next day, have a glass of wine an hour before going to bed, and you'll see a massive disruption. And people don't realize it doesn't mean that you don't have to drink, but you have to be conscious of the fact that you're impacting your sleep.
Yeah, and we to that, for example, we had an expert that said that what she found with some South American soccer players, they used to drink mate. So there was this one player, for example, who was drinking mate right before going to bed, and he couldn't sleep well. Well, because of that, right? But he didn't. For him, it's like he didn't realize.
You might as well have 3 espressos and try to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate is full. It's an energy drink. So if you have an energy drink before you go to bed, but just food. Eating within 2 hours of going to bed is going to have an impact on sleep. Eating caffeinated or energy drink like mate or whatever it is going to have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has a huge impact. You win a game or you do something, you drink with your buddy, of course it's going to have an impact. That's you're all excited, you're whatever it is. So it's really important. And there, I would think that if you want to wear it off, so what do you do about it? Well, forcing yourself to go to bed or taking sleeping pills, that has side effects. It's terrible. And you don't want to do that. So one of the best things you can do is just go sweat or etc. You should not force yourself to sleep. You should only sleep when you have to. Now, the principles of cognitive behavioral science tell us that if you want to get back to a regular schedule, even if you can't sleep, force yourself to get up at a normal time even if you feel totally sleep deprived the first day, because that'll put you back on, that'll get your body tired. Because the bad cycle is if, you're okay, you sleep in much more, okay, you feel better. But then the next night, you're too close to the time you woke up, and therefore you can't go to bed. So the simplest thing is to look at pattern and schedules. And of course, when you go across time zones, it takes on the average for, healthy person, probably a day per hour per hour change. We have a friend who's a UFC fighter, a world-class UFC fighter, and he didn't, fighting is probably the ultimate sport, right? Toughest sport. And he went to fight at 5-hour time zone difference. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to be fine. I just need 3 days to acclimate." And we told him, "Don't do that." And he wasn't acclimated because, the fight was in the wrong time, et cetera, for him. That was not, and it was a very difficult fight for him. Still won the fight, but it was very, very, it was iffy. I won't say who it is, but it's a...
What should I have done, do you think? What you should have done?
You should have gone there 5 days earlier.
I see.
And acclimated. You need to acclimate for time difference, you need to acclimate for humidity, you need to acclimate for temperature, and you need to acclimate for altitude. Right. All those take a lag time. And if you're, in the case of fighting, it's very simple. This guy was going to Brazil, basically.
Yeah.
And so the difference between, say, California and Brazil is, California is a very temperate environment, and Brazil is 92% humidity, very, 35-degree temperature, etc. And that just sucks everything out of you. You add jet lag from that, and the right way for him to have done it would have been to spend, 10 days over there, acclimate, etc. And acclimatization is time, and patterns are really, really important. And so sleep is really key to recovery, really.
Yeah, no, you're right.
There's two sides to sleep. There's the first side is I'm going to recover from what I did to the day, and the second side is my sleep today is going to set me up for a great day tomorrow and better performance. Both are intertwined, and people tend to isolate both, but they're both. There is the recovery, and there's setting yourself up for the next day. And it really depends what constraints you have. If you're playing a game, or the next day, then it's different. Like if it's a tournament, whatever it is, like MMA fighters that go into tournament, they may have 2 fights today and then 2 fights the next day. Then they have to balance both because they have to recover, but at the same time they have to be ready for the next one. So there are a lot of factors, but the key is avoid opinions and try to have a scientific, logical approach to it.
That makes sense. But thank you for that. So if you look at kind of the global population, right, I read that about 30% of any given population tend to have sleeping issues, right? Some people would say it's almost like a national crisis, right? There's so many people dealing with it. Do you think 30% is about right? Or
much more than that?
More than that?
I think that I do speeches, and sometimes if I have a speech and in a conference, and of course it's conferences, but if I have a speech in a conference, I always ask when I start, how many of you feel you've slept too much? You had good sleep. Then there's always someone who's trying to be smart who goes, and everybody looks at them. And then I say, who feels sleep deprived and who feels that they didn't get the right sleep? All the hands get up.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would think that's intuition, but I think that over time it's known that as people age, about 40% get some kind of respiratory condition, the milder being snoring, and eventually it's needing a CPAP machine or something like that because you get serious apnea. That's 30 or 40% of people just as they get older. We know that teenagers and young kids don't want to sleep. I have 4. It's like they don't want to sleep. You see, you go in and it says, time to turn the phone off. Yeah, right. You close the door, boom, it's back on, right? So the kids and the teenagers, they don't want to sleep. So who's left? Then who's left is the people who are, in the 20s, mid 20s, like you're like professional athletes. Yeah, they're the dating game and all that. Maybe they sleep a little better. Actually, our statistics show that that's the group that sleeps the best. Uh, then you get to 30, 32, then you start a family. Most people start a career and all that. Once you have kids and pets and all that, no one has an uninterrupted night. I mean,
Yeah.
I see all my friends, well, Arthur that you met has 3 young boys. Arthur used to sleep like a baby. I mean, incredible. And now he just never gets more than 2 hours of sleep because he's got 3 boys and they wake up, they have a cold, they have something else. So the world is sleep deprived, and sleep is the biggest challenge. It's probably the lowest hanging fruit for making small incremental improvements.
I would agree. I think you're spot on that. So maybe my next question is about the technology itself, right? So because we work with a bunch of teams, Olympic teams, professional teams, they're always looking for the next big thing, to help improve the sleep and the recovery of their players, right? One of the trends that I've seen is, and you guys actually put together a great analysis, a comparative analysis of all kind of like the sleeping trackers out there, and especially the ones that are using what we call contactless biosensors, right? So those tiny radars that are into a lamp that can measure with no contact, deep sleep, light sleep, REMs. So there's a lot of excitement about the types of technology like contactless biosensors that can be used. But what do you think, first of all, what do you think about those? Are they accurate or not? And I know you have an opinion on that. And what do you think is the future of sleep technologies?
Well, the first thing is we make the better one, the best one, the only one that's within 90% of polysomnography. It's called Sleep.
Yeah.
2 sensors that get under a mattress, work with any mattress. All the ones that just look like they're capturing something from a lamp, it just doesn't work. It's not accurate. Yeah. It's within 60% of
accuracy.
That the accuracy is terrible. And so if you're going to use data to help you perform better, let's get the right data first. And so that's the first thing with our solution, the sleep tracker solution, and is that we don't sell it. It's companies that sell it for us, but we have the best solution. We build a technology that's in that. So I think that's the number one thing, is to establish a baseline and get to know yourself. There are no miracle pilots. You're not going to look at one night of sleep and say, oh, now I have the solution to improve the performance of a team. If I was managing a team, I'd do what we did for sailing, is I'd have my team sleep for a month with the system, even at home, etc., and actually understand what their baseline is. What's going on? How do they compare? What do they look at the science? And then says, okay, on the road, if there's a difference, what can I do? But thinking that you're going to look at one night and you're going to have a magic pill, that I think that's a bad idea.
You have to look at the trends, the evolution over a period of time.
Unless these guys are on performance enhancing drugs and all that, then then we don't know. That's not something we manage. But that's really the key, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So now we are. I'll give you an example of something that's unrelated to what you're talking about. We're actually, as you know, especially in America, there's a challenge with abuse of opioids, and so we have a partnership with a company that actually does try to rein in that epidemic by providing objective scientific metrics as to whether people are using opioids in a normal way, which is to control pain in people that need that kind of oral pain control, for example, or if people are abusing it as basically a substance, doing substance abuse. Well, sleep is the perfect example of, and probably the best way to control and look at that system. What we found is that sleep is the signpost for the usage of these. So we can tell. I'm sure we can tell also the use of performance enhancing drugs like steroids and all that, because it disrupts sleep almost instantly. And so we think that there's a lot that we can do with sleep. And so the last thing that I was a little bit talking about that at the beginning is we believe that the big solution for people to be successful with sleep and the general population, could be true for professional athletes, is the gamification of sleep. The idea is to create games for which increased sleep performance is actually a way to get ahead in the game. Mm-hmm. And the gamification of sleep is really key for young adults, for even adults, etc., where there is that kind of fun incentive to actually sleep better. And so the gamification of sleep is important to us.
So what would be the use case, for example, of a gamification feature onto your sleep tracker, for example? Is that...
So we're not shipping it, we're designing this technology, but the whole idea is imagine a class of teenagers in high school.
Yeah.
And they're
a soccer team or a real soccer team.
Or a team, they're competing for better sleep.
Yeah.
And so that's like, for example, if they use young kids, they get 2 additional points to their average testing scores if they sleep over, 6 hours a night, and 2 more points if they're in the top 5, and 5 points if they're the best sleeper. And so you could basically, it becomes a game and something that people can get ahead with.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, and that reminds me of a very world-class soccer team in Spain. There's only 2 big ones, right? Who basically told me that they built an application for their players, one of the biggest players in the world, and there was a gamification where the players were competing against who's going to park the fastest, in the facility. And what they found is that the players were because they're very competitive, right, by nature. They loved it. They loved it because they were just very competitive against each other. So I think it works for the general population, but I think for the athlete as well. It's part of a team. So
yeah, that's really great. It must have been either Barcelona or Real Madrid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're spot on. So my last question to you is, you as a startup, so what are your big plans for the next 2 years?
Our plans is really to execute on all of this. We have the technology to deliver best, super accurate, polysomnography grade, medical grade analysis in a completely non-invasive, non-intrusive way. Our goal is now to look at the gamification of improving sleep, to look at all those different facets that will deliver simple, practical ways, non-invasive ways, without using pills, etc. People improving their sleep to improve the recovery from what happened before and the performance on the next day, improve both next day's performance and recovery from today's events. And that's really our mission in life, and that's what we do at Fullpower.
That's great. So, we're arriving at the end of this video interview, but I want to thank you for your time today. It was great speaking with you.
Well, it was great speaking with you too, and I hope we can help people sleep better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.